Mr. Squidward, welcome to the night shift.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, the night shift tonight, episode 41. That's it for tonight. John Allcorn. I'm joined by Martin Garcia. Martin, a lot of things happened in the NFL today. A lot of raging from you know who, but despite all that, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It was a very quiet day up until a while ago. I'll say that for the NFL. I thought it was gonna be a slow news day. We're talking about the Lakers game, but now we have actual news to talk about. So I'm excited to just get it done with.
Same here, my man. A lot has happened, but ladies and gentlemen, we hope to hear some of y'all's thoughts here coming in. Folks, we knew Matthew Stafford. We knew trades were going to happen. But, of course, we also welcome in one of the other hosts or co-hosts of the show this past week, Shiranon. Dude, despite what's happened this weekend, we had raging from one of our fellow hosts here. We won't say the name. Isaiah. But despite all of that, how are you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing very well. Pretty surprised still by this whole Stafford trade, but I'm sure we'll cover that in the show.
Folks, I've been raging about this for about a year since I've started the sports career. Divorce counseling, nothing was going to happen. And, of course, Isaiah comes in drunk with a virgin pina colada while cutting his finger while trying to cut his own hair. Screw you, John Lynch. Well, I'm not going to say what I was going to say because, Isaiah, I know not to cut my own hair because I won't look like a 3-year-old kid or a Dora type haircut. But we have football to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, the Detroit Lions finally let Matthew Stafford go, and they're trading him to the Los Angeles Rams. And if I look at it correctly, if we kind of break this down here, folks, let me get the all the details of that. So give me just a moment. But if you really break it down, Martin, the Rams haven't had a first-round pick since they drafted Jared Goff in 2016. Looking at the trade, who do you think won the trade, and who do you think is more to blame for the Rams for the situation that's happened today or this past day, depending on where everybody's at right
now? Personally, I think it's very easy. I think it's simple. I think the Lions won this trade by a landslide. I mean, you get Jared Goff. You get yourself a former first overall pick in Jared Goff. He's not a total scrub. He may not be a superstar, but he's not a total scrub. He still has the chance to be a solid starter here and there. So it's not like he's a scrub, like I said. And then you get so many first-round picks and a third-round pick. I mean, I just feel like the Lions fleeced the sorry-ass Rams. And I think the Lions are laughing their ass off into the bank. Because, I mean, Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback, but he did ask, trade me already. So, I mean, he was gone anyways. So it's not like you keep him. If the option was keep him or trade him, you probably keep him, but he said trade me. And, I mean, I feel like the Lions came out with a serviceable quarterback at very worst with potential of long-time starter still. And, I mean, if that doesn't work, you still have those 2 first-round picks and the third-round pick. It's a steal, man. Lions win. Who do you blame for this? I mean, I guess the Rams organization. I mean, Jared Goff came in as a potential, franchise-saving quarterback. I mean, he was the first pick. The first year he didn't really start because of Jeff Fisher. But, I mean, the next year, I mean, they went pretty far. I mean, they were great at one point. The Rams' offense was pretty great that year. They made Super Bowl. Who knows what happened since then? Because since Super Bowl, they've had Cooper Kupp still. They've had Robert Woods still. They've had Higbee still. They had offense, a full offense since Super Bowl run. Outside of like maybe Todd Gurley, who got hurt, who's been obviously very injury prone, but they've had a solid offense this whole time. So it's not like Goff after 1 year was given a bunch of scrubs to suck. You have to blame the whole team for that, not just Goff. I mean, clearly the offensive coordinator sucks, or whoever's running that offense, head coach. McVay or the offensive coordinator sucks, because this team should be still be a top 5 offense year in and year out with the receivers they have. It is what it is. The Rams choked. The Rams sucked. And now they're on to the new Matthew Stafford project. Hopefully he could turn them around like they once were so bright many years ago at this point. It feels like it anyways. And, I mean, hopefully they turn around. But I think the biggest winners here, easily, the Lions. They have a future now. They have picks. They're heavy in picks. They still have a prospect quarterback. What else can you ask? They're great. I think they win. Congrats.
Sheree, we all have been laughing behind the scenes in post-show calls. You've watched football for a while to know that just because you give up a lot for a quarterback, you don't get the same in return. Same kind of thoughts with Martin, but really so, what are your overall thoughts on this trade? And do you truly and genuinely think the Lions are having Jared Goff to be their quote-unquote franchise quarterback?
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with Martin that the Lions were the winners of this trade, 100% agreed, but I completely disagree with him on Jared Goff. I think that it's squarely on Jared Goff, the struggles that the Rams offense has had over these past few seasons. He came in, he lit it up his first 2 seasons. I will give you that, right? And LaFleur leaves. And, like Martin said, it could be a problem with the offensive coordinator as well. But given those weapons, when you throw for 22 touchdowns and 16 interceptions and then back it up with the next year's where you throw for 20 touchdowns and 13 interceptions in a whole season, that's just not going to cut it in today's NFL, especially if you have the defense and the coach to compete for Super Bowls, which LA undoubtedly has. So I don't think that the Lions signed Jared Goff to be their next franchise quarterback. I would be surprised if Jared Goff stays in Detroit past the end of this current contract. But I think that the Lions won the trade regardless, because if you look at the Lions organization, they got to know that they're not going to compete this season in the NFC North. So this is a throwaway season anyway. The fact that they can get 2 first-rounders and a third for Matthew Stafford, who's clearly not worth that much, just to eat up Jared Goff's contract, is definitely a great way to set themselves up for a few years down the road when they can compete. So the Lions organization, which is surprising because their organization has been very dysfunctional, but the Lions management and the Lions organization right now is setting themselves up for future success by exchanging potential players, potential draft picks, potential Pro Bowlers or starters for $35 million of a debt of basically a worthless contract today. Because I don't think that Jared Goff can come in and do anything, and I don't think that they're looking to keep him either as this franchise quarterback.
Folks, obviously I know I traded Jared Goff and all them in Madden 21, but for me, who does it win before we move on to the more NFL here on the MI6 Sports Network for the Night Shift, episode 41. I have to agree, and this is not just like a Twilight episode where we all agree about everything and then we move on. No, I've been saying this for a while. The Detroit Lions are a joke of an organization, but when you look at it from the Rams' point of view, and folks, let me kind of point this out. This is a team, for some reason, at the worst possible times, will pay their players. If you kind of break it down from the Lions' point of view, let's say after the 2022 season, folks, it doesn't work out. Guess how much dead cap they only have for a team that's rebuilding is going to have a lot of money. For 2022, less than $16 million. So the team that's rebuilding is obviously going to have more than enough money. That doesn't mean a lot. I don't think Jared Goff is the future for the Detroit Lions, but the Lions won this trade just like you said, Shree, just like Martin was saying to a certain extent. You get, 2 first rounds and a third for Matthew Stafford. I am high on Matthew Stafford, but for his age, getting that much in return, you're going to let Matthew Stafford go to the 49ers or any other team, and they're going to give you less. Detroit Lions are trying to rebuild. When we say rebuild, they're trying to rebuild actually this time. Not like I said with Matthew Stafford. They have stuff. So many pieces to adjust on the defense, so many pieces on the offense. This works out so much better for the Lions than it does for the Rams. Jalen Ramsey's contract against the cap, Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers. What else do you do on the defensive side of the ball? Let's say Akers is the future. There's too many questions. Decisions that GM made, who is a terrible GM in the NFL, Les Snead. because you pay the guys at the worst possible time, and all their contracts are going to affect the cap. So I think it's a great trade more for the Detroit Lions instead of the Los Angeles Rams, because again, getting Stafford, you're basically saying right now it's either Super Bowl, NFC Championship, or bust. Because of how many contracts, folks, are set up in terms of how it's going to affect the cap negatively, it doesn't very well for the Los Angeles Rams. And folks, we have a guest here on the Isaiah, who did cut his own hair, so that's why he's wearing a hat. So, with that being said,
Isaiah, I didn't know you were a Raiders fan.
Go Raiders!
dude,
Yeah.
just admit it, just like you did with the egg. Just do it. Look at my hair. Does it look much better?
I didn't even get a haircut. See, I wanted to get a haircut, but
So how did you cut your finger?
I decided that I didn't want to embarrass myself. That's why.
Embarrass yourself, dude. You shouldn't be embarrassed. Look at my hair. But the point is, okay, Isaiah, now that you came in, the Lions traded Stafford. Who do you think is more to blame on the Rams side? And who do you truly think won the trade between the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions?
Well, first of all, before I get into that, I just want to explain this. This Raider hat, I want to give a shout out to my guy, Sean Yep, who came and delivered this Raider hat today to me. I guess he doesn't want it anymore, so gives me another team's merchandise I could use. Martin, maybe I can send this over to you for Secret Santa next year. But in terms of the trade, let me start by saying this. How do I put it? I am really ticked off at the San Francisco 49ers for not getting this trade done, because I basically wasted the last 2 nights where I didn't get any good sleep whatsoever. I kept waking up every 2 hours and checking my phone in anticipation that my San Francisco 49ers and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan would bring Matthew Stafford to me. I believed all those reports that were coming out from the Senior Bowl that a deal for Stafford was imminent. It was true. A deal was imminent, but I didn't know that it was going to be to the Los Angeles Rams. And, about this trade, let me say this. I think this trade is a win for the Detroit Lions, because the Detroit Lions, they get 2 first-round picks and they get a 3rd-round pick. And also, I think the Rams massively overpaid for Matthew Stafford. I get Matthew Stafford is one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, but again, he's 32 years old. He has suffered a couple of injuries in the past. Even though I badly wanted my Niners to get him, I wouldn't have given what the Rams gave up in return for Matthew Stafford. I would have offered probably our 12th pick and our 2nd round pick, and that's it. But I would not have given up 2 first-round picks and a 3rd plus Jared Goff. I think it's a massive overpay for the Rams. Congratulations to the Rams on getting this deal done and being able to somehow, some way move on from Jared Goff. I mean, Les Snead is a freaking magician. I mean, this guy, whenever you doubt him and his abilities to get deals done, he always proves people wrong, and he ends up, getting deals done, whether it's for Jalen Ramsey, whether it's for trading up for getting Jared Goff. I'm never going to doubt Les Snead again. But the Rams, they got to win now. And if they don't win the next couple of years, we're going to be looking back on this trade, and we're going to be like, did the Rams give up too much for Jared Goff? Because if they don't win the Super Bowl, I think that it's a bust of a deal for the Los Angeles Rams.
A lot of great points, but like I said, Detroit Lions definitely won the trade without a doubt. But first, it's just comments before we move on to our last couple of topics here on episode 41 of the Night Shift. Of course, James Gonzalez comes in to say, "Hi everyone, what's up, James? Hope everything is well with you, my man." He said, "I feel so good for Matthew Stafford getting out of Detroit." Like I said, Matthew Stafford should be throwing the biggest party on the planet for getting out of Detroit. So without a doubt, James, I without a doubt agree. Of course, James Gonzalez also comes in to say, to me, it feels like a good trade for both teams. It does right now. But like Chrissy says, and I agree, for me, I won't declare a winner in this trade until the season begins in September and exactly, because in the moment it sounds great, but will it result to positive things on the field in wins and losses? Krista Wilson is calling you out, Isaiah. He's betraying the Niners. He's already betrayed them many times, canceling their season, saying, screw you to John Lynch. So really, I'm not sure if he's a 49ers fan unless they're in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs every single year. But boom, Isaiah Rouse also for that one, dude, 2020 this Thursday. KC King also comes in. What's up, Casey? I think it's a win on both sides. And yes, they pay seat price, but the Rams do need to move on from Goff. They, without a doubt, agree should move on from Jared Goff, Casey, but the expectations are going to be high with Matthew Stafford for the Rams. The question is, can they live up to those expectations? Christian Wilson also comes in to say, before we move on to a couple of topics, maybe the Niners have a quarterback in mind. Maybe Stafford wasn't in their plans. That's exactly kind of what I was saying. So what if there's something, Christy, that we don't know? Again, no proof, alleged. What if there's something we don't know that they are trying to do? You're glad the Cowboys didn't get him. I agree, but I mean, we'll say the Cowboy roast for the free agency here. Of course.
Hey, John, before we move on, let me talk to Isaiah's point about John Lynch being a deal maker. Yes, John Lynch is a deal maker. He always moves up and trades up and, does all these moves to bring in all these players. That's why they've had one first-round pick since 2016 and have no more first-round picks till 2024. It doesn't take a lot of talent to just trade away your first-round picks for players. He's not a deal maker. He's just mortgaging the future of the franchise to win now. So like John said, they better win now. Otherwise, it's game over for the Rams.
Isaiah, you have something to add, but if it's any type of Isaiah rant or you hitting your head on a pineapple verbally, no, sir. What do you have to say?
Also, the biggest culprit that I want to blame for what happened today, is me. And I'll show you guys right now what I mean, and that is last night on No BS with myself, with Trevor Williams, and with Furman Lee. We talked about this exact thing. We said that we were talking about, the Rams and potentially getting Matthew Stafford. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, the Lions are bluffing. Do not believe anything the Detroit Lions are saying with this report. It's not going to happen. I guaranteed it. You can take a look from the video right now.
I told you so. But with that, gentlemen, we will move on to our next topic with the Rams and Matt Stafford. So today, the Rams have been, in the rumor mill of this, and they are considering to try to get Matt Stafford. I have no idea if this is really necessary. I know we talked a little bit about it earlier when one of our fans made a comment about it, but I just don't think the Rams really need Matt Stafford when they already have Jared Goff, and he's done so much for that organization. It's not like he's losing and having like 3-13 season. He's been in the playoffs already. Though he may not have clinched a division, maybe he has clinched a division, but at the same time, he is a playoff contending quarterback. Why are you trying to get rid of him to bring Matt Stafford, who hasn't been in the playoffs in quite some time? So I'll go to Isaiah. What are your thoughts and reactions to this whole rumor mill going on with the Rams and Matt Stafford?
Well, when I saw this come out today from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, I immediately saw a lot of people on Twitter freaking out about it, especially 49ers fans. They were like, oh my God, the Niners, John Lynch, go hurry up and give them our 12th pick and get Matthew Stafford so the Rams can't get Stafford. My immediate reaction to seeing all these Niner fans flipping out about this was this emoji right here, the face palm. Ladies and gentlemen, relax. This is all part of trade negotiations. I call complete BS on this move. And the reason why, or not this move, this story, I completely call BS on it is because I think that this is the Detroit Lions leaking this story out because there's not that much interest like they originally anticipated in Matthew Stafford. They're trying to get either the Niners, the Colts, or whoever that is in the bidding for Matthew Stafford to up their price or up the compensation up for Matthew Stafford. I think that this is what it is. When you look at the Rams, right? Let's break this down, ladies and gentlemen. The Los Angeles Rams, they have Jared Goff right now. I believe he's under contract for the next 3-4 years. Jared Goff's contract is nearly impossible to move. If you were to release Jared Goff, you would have a $20 million plus dead cap. That is a lot of money. And also, if you were to cut him before June 1st, it is $65 million in dead cap. That is just way too much money. The Rams are not going to cut him, so they're going to have to trade him. And who is going to trade for Jared Goff? Jared Goff this season, he had kind of an inconsistent year. He's been inconsistent the last couple of years. Plus, he dealt with injuries. I don't see any team trading for that massive contract of Jared Goff. And when you look at the Rams draft picks, they don't have a first-round pick this season. Or this year. They don't have a first-round pick, I believe, until 2024. They don't have a second-round pick until – they do have a second-round pick this year, but after this year, I believe they don't have a second-round pick until 2023. So it's going to be really, really tough for the Rams to get Jared Goff. The only way I could see the Rams getting not Jared Goff, getting Matthew Stafford is if the Rams – or if the Lions somehow accept a deal which they send Matthew Stafford to LA for Jared Goff straight up in a quarterback-for-quarterback swap. And I highly doubt the Lions are going to do something that dumb when they are rebuilding. They need draft picks. They need a lot more assets to rebuild that team. They need a young quarterback. They're going to draft a young quarterback as well. So I really don't see it. I think that this is just the Lions trying to leak a story out to try to get either the Niners, the Colts, whoever's bidding for Matthew Stafford to give more in a trade package for Stafford.
Isaiah, let me read one to two things that was said. Somebody sounded that was said to one of the other hosts on here. I would be a better GM. Okay, is it my audio coming out? Isaiah said, I'll be a better GM than John Lynch. Isaiah said, now Stafford is in that division. Who cares about that pick? It's like that pick is Brady. My gosh, here, ladies and gentlemen. But say the rest of the Isaiah roast for this Thursday on that One Dude 2020. Moving on, one of the questions we have here, Shreeze, there were talks about Matthew Stafford potentially maybe going to the Broncos, maybe to the Niners, or certain things like that. Where do you think the 49ers, the Colts, or maybe my different Broncos go from here after missing out on Stafford, even if they weren't really going after Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, I think I'll address the Niners first, right? I think there's an easy answer for the Niners. I think it's a Matt Ryan uniting with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, right? Last time we saw Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan together, Matt Ryan was MVP, and they made the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that the same thing is going to happen now. Obviously, Matt Ryan is much older than he was back then. He's 34 years old. But I still think that he has a few good seasons left in him. And I think that Kyle Shanahan can revitalize him since he was already close to Matt Ryan for such a long time and actually succeeded a lot with him in Atlanta. So I think it's very logical that, the Niners and Kyle Shanahan go after Matt Ryan and bring him in and see what they can do, right? In terms of Denver, I'm not really too sure because I don't think that Denver is in a win-now mode. I think their defense is very good. I think they have offensive weapons, but I don't think that if they get any of the quarterbacks other than Deshaun Watson that they're going to compete. But then to get Deshaun Watson, you need to give up, 4 first-round picks, what it seems like 4 first-round picks. So I just don't think Vic Fangio and Denver would be willing to give up 4 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. And I don't think they're going to give up any of their good young players for Deshaun Watson either. So for me, if I'm the Broncos, I try to get, maybe someone like Carson Wentz or maybe another quarterback like that. But I think Carson Wentz would make the most sense for the Colts, right? Because I think that Frank Reich obviously has worked with him in the past. So I see kind of Carson Wentz going to Indianapolis, and I could see Matt Ryan going to San Francisco, where two coaches are reuniting with their quarterbacks. With the Broncos, I'm not really sure what direction they go in. But again, I don't see the need for them to go out and get a quarterback in free agency. I think they can maybe draft someone. I think they can maybe bring in a veteran, maybe a Ryan Fitzpatrick or something like that. Ride it out for another year and then draft somebody and have them start, moving forward. But I think that would be the best path forward for the Broncos.
I agree with the Shri on the 49ers here because, again, yes, he is older, but he's been able to play and start most of his games despite his age. So that's definitely going to be a big factor there. Martin, we knew this was going to happen sooner or later, but coming from being a Raiders fan, obviously we can talk about the Colts going with Watson, which wouldn't really make any sense because that's a team in the own division. Why would Houston do that? Where do you see either the Colts or the Broncos going from here after not somehow being able to land for Matthew Stafford?
For the Colts, I mean, I think they're in a kind of sticky situation because they do have a really good team. They have one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line. They have solid receivers, and surprisingly, they do have a really good offensive line. But they have solid receivers. They have T.Y. Hilton. He's getting older though, and they have solid, decent number 2s and 3s. Defense was elite last year. I mean, they really were elite last year, even though they had some games that were questionable, but they really were an elite defense last year. So obviously you want a quarterback to win. You're trying to win as soon as possible. You're not trying to make some pieces lose as each year goes by. You lose a few more pieces here and there. So obviously you want a stopgap quarterback, someone to bridge I guess the area, but it's not Deshaun Watson. Obviously, I don't think it is. Anyways, maybe Fitzpatrick. Or maybe even trade for Nick Foles, man. But I don't really know who the Colts are gonna go after here because there's not really many great options out there now after Stafford. Broncos, I mean the Broncos are in a better situation, I think, at least in the waiting game. I mean, they're not a great team. They've always had defense, nothing else really. They have solid receivers also. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and their running back game is still pretty solid, but I think the Broncos have a few more years till they contend, so they could literally draft a quarterback or get a bridge in the quarterback position because they are not in win now mode. They haven't been in win now mode since Peyton Manning. So I think the Broncos have way more options than the Colts. The Colts, you literally got to trade for a serviceable quarterback, maybe even Marcus Mariota, man. I mean, the Raiders still have Derek Carr. And Mariota's getting paid like a starter on the low end. So maybe you call the Raiders and you call Marcus Mariota. Mariota is a solid quarterback, regardless of how average he is. He's a solid quarterback. We saw him when Carr got hurt a little bit this year. He played decent. He almost won the game for us too. It was just a shame that we couldn't finish, but you can't really blame Mariota for that. If I had to make a choice though for the Colts, it'd be Mariota. I think they reach out to the Raiders because the Raiders don't want that cap space. It's a big cap hit for a backup quarterback unless you're over Derek Carr. He's a luxury. Mariota's a luxury. So I think you try to get rid of him. The Colts make sense. I mean, they have a good offense. They have a good defense. Mariota's a solid, serviceable, manageable quarterback. I think that's your safest pick. You're not going to give up a big bank. You're going to have like a 5th-round pick, probably. He's nothing special. And, I mean, you have your little stopgap, serviceable, manageable starting quarterback there. Broncos, literally, though, I think they draft somebody because their quarterbacks right now are not that great, and you know that. You're a Broncos fan yourself, and you know your quarterback is not the best. But you could
yes.
Wait, I thought Isaiah said Drew Lock was supposed to be MVP.
And they're supposed to win the division over Patrick Mahomes, and it didn't fear Patrick Mahomes. So thank you, Isaiah Leon, for also in my Cavs.
But you could keep Drew Lock for another year if you really wanted to, like drag it out, I guess. They really could. I mean, Broncos fans would be upset, but it's a possibility. It's a real possibility. Keep him out, drag him out. Hopefully, he becomes a one-hit wonder. But Broncos have way more time to search for their future quarterback. I really do think so.
To keep Drew Lock.
I think they might, to be honest, because who else can they really slime?
I mean, they have way more because the Chiefs are going to win that division every year.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders, Broncos, Chargers are all going to be playing for wild card spots for a few years.
To keep Drew Lock.
How about no?
Drew Lock is not the quarterback. I'm done with Drew Lock. Folks here, and I wish him the best in wherever he goes. And obviously, they're probably going to keep him for a year, which means we're not going to be any good. But before I get my thoughts on that, Isaiah, where could you see your 49ers go if you still are a fan of them, considering you've kind of been up and down on that? Despite all the mental drama you've had or added to that, where do you see your team going moving forward? Not being able to go after Matthew Stafford or not being able to give up what you thought would have been potentially that 12th pick.
All right. So for the 49ers, I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be back with the San Francisco 49ers. And the reason why I say that is because the 49ers openly courted Matthew Stafford. I mean, if you saw the rumors from Javier Vega, Benjamin Albright, Matt Barr that were there at the Senior Bowl covering the Senior Bowl, every single day you would see like a report about the 49ers and them getting close to a deal with the Lions for Stafford and them offering whatever they were going to offer for Matthew Stafford. And I think that Jimmy G, like if we see those reports, Jimmy G and his agent damn sure have seen those reports. So I'm pretty sure that Jimmy Garoppolo knows that San Francisco is trying to get rid of him. They're trying to get an upgrade, and I think that there's just too much hurt feelings. I don't think at this point, I know it's a business, but I don't think at this point you can bring him back and, the two sides will be happy with each other. So I think that Garoppolo, is a lock to be gone from San Francisco this offseason. And I think the guy that you definitely should look after for the Niners to go and get is Matt Ryan. And Shree made a lot of good points. Matt Ryan had his best year of his career under Kyle Shanahan. He was like an MVP, or he was playing at an MVP type level. He went to a Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan. He knows the Kyle Shanahan system very well, and he knows that or Kyle can bring in a guy that you just put him in and you can plug him in and he can play right away instead of having to learn that playbook. And I think that's going to be really beneficial for the 49ers because, guys, let's face it, most likely there's not going to be OTAs this year. There's probably not going to be, summer camp or fall camp or whatever. It's going to be like what happened this season where you had a limited training camp and you had everything going on virtually. So I think that that's what's going to happen. And I believe that Matt Ryan, he doesn't even need to learn a new system. He already knows the system. He's been playing in that Kyle Shanahan style system for the last 2 years of his career. So you just put him in, plug him in, and he can go right away. I think Matt Ryan makes a lot of sense for the Niners. Matt Ryan was my number 2 choice if I had to pick, the quarterbacks that I wanted my Niners to get. 1 being Matthew Stafford, 2 being Matt Ryan, and then number 3 being Deshaun Watson. I'm not saying that Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford are better than Deshaun Watson. I just don't want to pay that humongous price that you're going to have to pay to get a Deshaun Watson and mortgage the 49ers future for Deshaun Watson. If we do get Deshaun Watson, obviously I would be really happy, but I'm not banking on it. I think it's a pipe dream at this point. And Matt Ryan also, you can get him for cheaper, way cheaper than Deshaun Watson. I think maybe a second round pick could do the trick for Matt Ryan. The Colts, I agree with you guys. Carson Wentz, I think, is a logical fit for the coach. Him and Frank Reich have a previous relationship. Carson Wentz played his best ball under Frank Reich. He was also playing at an MVP level before he got hurt back in 2016. So I think that makes sense. for Indianapolis, and you can have Wentz there. He's a young quarterback. You can, develop him and, see if you can fix him and see if, you can make him to be your potential future quarterback, future franchise quarterback. And then for the Denver Broncos, I know this might seem like a pipe dream and it might be like very controversial, but I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson. And the reason being is Vic Fangio is on the hot seat. Vic Fangio needs to win now. If Vic Fangio starts 0-4 or 1-4 or 2-3, Vic Fangio is fired. There is no way that Vic Fangio keeps his job without making the playoffs next year. Vic Fangio needs to stamp for Deshaun Watson. He needs to tell George Payton, go get me Deshaun Watson, because Drew Lock is obviously not the guy in Denver. I don't even know who they have behind Drew Lock as backups. That's how irrelevant they are. But Drew Lock is not the guy. Go get Deshaun Watson. Go get that young 26-year-old quarterback. Mortgage your future for him. You need to win now. And I think that Deshaun Watson, if he does go to Denver, he'll be there. He'll be your long-term answer for the next 10 to 12 years. And you guys know John Elway. John Elway likes the splashy moves. And he's done it with Joe Flacco. Obviously, that didn't work out. He did it with Mark Sanchez. He did it with Peyton Manning. I think John Elway will have a lot of interest in Deshaun Watson. And you guys know, even though they have George Payton right now in their front office as the GM, we all know who makes the final calls, and that is Mr. Elway.
No, not getting Deshaun Watson, because, again, Von Miller is a free agent, so he's probably gone. What do you do with Justin Simmons? What do you do with, let's see, the future of Kareem Jackson? What about Philip Lindsay? Do you pay him or let him go? You got one more year on Melvin Gordon's contract. Is he going to be there after this year? What about Russ Freeman, the backup? What about Noah Fant? What about Woody Jones at the offensive line? Ryan Leary didn't pay this past year with other injuries or concerns of the COVID-19. There's too many things to address. Well, I would love Deshaun Watson with the Denver Broncos here, but folks, I don't see how that is going to happen here. But ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to actually some NBA talk, let's see what people have to say in the comment section below. Casey, I can see Matt Ryan going to the Niners, just like we're saying, but I can see him going to the Patriots, as he did play college ball at Boston College. Great point there, Casey. I think he'd be one of those teams now if Ryan goes to the Niners. I could see Jimmy G going back to the Pats. That could definitely, without a doubt, be a possibility. But I will say, though, I'm done with Garoppolo with the 49ers. But I know I've been a fan of him, and I still am, but he just cannot stay healthy. And what do you need in the NFL is consistency. But you heard it here first. I'm done with Jimmy Garoppolo with the 49ers here. Folks, Christian Wilson says Carson Wentz to the Colts. Definitely a good idea, but you can't always trust the redheads. KC, as that for Watson, I don't see him going to any division rivals. Again, that's a good point. That's why I said he's not going into the division. So it's kind of a mystery. Not Washington, though, just because Cam Newton, Ron Rivera, boom, boom. Christopher Wilson, Watson to the Broncos. No, without a doubt, agree. To that, I say this.
How about no?
Because, again, it sounds great, but if you're trying to win now, but you're mortgaging your future, if you're trying to mortgage your future, it could damage the win now mode. Just saying that there. Again, whoever wrote this for the MI6 Sports Network is kind of a good point, but again, a lot of things to consider. How about Alex Smith to Denver? Would be great, but again, can he stay healthy? Can we work on the offensive line? Or two questions right there. Fangio was the San Francisco defense coordinator with Smith balled out for the Niners in 2011 and 2012. Again, I definitely think it is a possibility, but let me know what y'all think. I'm a Denver Broncos fan. Who would y'all like to see as the Denver Broncos' new franchise quarterback? Because, again, I'll say this. I don't know about Isaiah because he'll change his picks all the time. I'm done with Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock could succeed somewhere else. I wish him the best, and I'll follow him wherever he goes in the next year or two. He's not the guy. I'm sorry here, folks, but let's move it along over to the NBA, which, of course, Isaiah Leung actually was on the MI6 page. Drew Lock to San Francisco. We'll give you a bag of chips. And half a bag of Lay's potato chips for Drew Lock. Going over to the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers had a very scary scarce tonight, Isaiah. 96-95. It kind of looked like you saw AD not be able to get it done. You just saw on the court they weren't able to do what we saw them do last year. Isaiah, we've seen this before with LeBron with teams every single year. Oh my gosh, early on, something's going on. Are they going to barely make the playoffs? What about the final contention? All those things, blah, blah, blah. Isaiah, what are your more thoughts on this game? Should people be overreacting, or is this the same type of situation we've seen with LeBron many times before with the Cavs and with obviously maybe a little bit with the Heat?
I know the Lakers won this game, but still, I am overreacting and pushing the panic button on this game. And the reason why is because the Lakers just can't close out games. We have a veteran group with LeBron, with AD, with Marc Gasol, with Dennis Schroeder, with Montrezl Harrell, and yet each and every game when we have a sizable lead in the fourth quarter, we somehow, some way let the other team get back into this game, and we have to either put all of our starters in, or we have to hold our breaths and hope that LeBron and AD can't deliver in the final couple of minutes in this game. That's what happened in this game for the Lakers. The Lakers had, I believe, a 6-point lead with a minute and 30 left in the ball game. And 6-point lead with a minute 40 left, are in a comfortable position to get the win. But then the Lakers just couldn't stop missing free throws. They couldn't stop getting bad shots. They couldn't stop turning the ball over down the stretch. I mean, LeBron James, when the Lakers were up, I believe they were up 3. Or no, they were up 3 or 4 in the final 40 seconds. LeBron drives, or he takes, I think it was Kemba Walker, one-on-one. He tries to go one-on-one against Kemba Walker, drives to his left, and LeBron loses the basketball out of bounds at Celtics ball. Celtics go down the court. They score a triple, make it a 1-point game. And then after that, next possession, Anthony Davis gets the ball on the block. Anthony Davis tries to post up. I believe it was Patrick Williams. I might be wrong on that. Robert Williams. He posts up Robert Williams. Poses him up, and he has like a sizable advantage against him, or size advantage against him. He poses him up, turns around, and tries to shoot over Robert Williams and loses the basketball. And the Celtics get the ball. They're on the run out. Tatum gets it, passes it to Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker tries to shoot a mid-range jumper. It's off the iron, no good. And the Lakers somehow, some way survive. But I was not impressed whatsoever with the Lakers. The Lakers, I know that they're going to be in a position to win the championship this year. They're going to probably go to the finals, but they got to learn to close games and stop giving teams extra life in the fourth quarter when they have a sizable lead on teams. Like it was the same thing last year. It's the same thing this year, and they got to cut those habits out.
Sheree, you've seen Isaiah overreact many times to sports, and it has always most of the time bite him in the butt. You've watched at least enough basketball to see sometimes when you look at the initial beginning part of the first 15, 30 games, we tend to overreact. Do you think the Lakers are in trouble like we're saying, or is it just a situation where they'll find it, they'll get it done, and then they'll be in the finals again this year?
First off, this is a huge overreaction, right? It's not as though the Celtics are some bottom feeder team in the NBA. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. So this is a team that is a quality team. They went on the road. They went all the way to Boston, and it was a close game. It was a defensive game. Actually, as I was watching it, I was thinking this is one of the only games in the past few seasons that I've watched that has been under 100 points for either team, right? So defensive game, not necessarily the Lakers' strong suit, and they come in and they win. They get a W and they leave with a W. I don't think LeBron is thinking anything other than, we won the game. I don't think AD is thinking anything other than we won the game. I don't think the Lakers are thinking anything other than we won the game. I think it's a huge overreaction because I think they're playing a quality opponent, and I don't think, Isaiah is giving enough respect to the Celtics when he talks about it in this way. And another thing I want to mention, Isaiah, you say they can't close out. Actually, the Celtics had a 5-point lead, or actually a 7-point lead going into the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, the Celtics turned the ball over 7 times. Lakers turned the ball over 0 times. Also, in the fourth quarter, the Celtics scored 17 points and the Lakers scored 25 points. So while you may say in the last 2 minutes, they couldn't close out the lead and it was close at the end, actually the team that couldn't close out the lead were the Celtics, because the Celtics had the lead going into the fourth quarter. The Celtics were controlling the game for a large part of the second half. But what happened? Ultimately, they turned the ball over, committed too many mistakes, and lost the game. They almost came back and made up for all their mistakes. However, they did fall short. So I would argue that the team that should be, overreacting to losing that game is the Celtics, because they should have won that game based on the way they played through 3 quarters.
Sure makes a lot of good points here. Martin, I don't even know if you watched the game, neither did I, but it just kind of shows that a lot of fans, a lot of people tend to overreact early. When you make decisions based off of emotions in the NBA, in the NFL, it never works. But Martin, your thoughts on, is everybody pretty much overreacting, or is there really a true concern here for the rest of the season and going into the playoffs for the Los Angeles Lakers?
It's another overreaction, man. Every year in the NBA, it's a long season. These guys are just a lot of times just trying to make a story out of nothing. I mean, it's a very long season. It drags sometimes. And sometimes you want some drama, You make something out of nothing pretty much. It's normal for the Lakers to be in close games, especially against a team like the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics, like she said, are not a bottom feeder team. They're not like the worst team in the league. It's not like they're playing the worst team in the league and they barely won by 1 point. And even if they did, big whoop. It's one game in the season, early in the season. So the Lakers are fine. I doubt LeBron or any of the Lakers management was like, man, we won by 1 point. We barely won. This is not good. I'm sure they're going to go on to the next one. They're going to look at the tape and they're going to try to fix their mistakes, but they're not going to stick to this one game and say, man, we're in trouble. LeBron's LeBron. He's been through this so many times now. He's been through so many seasons now. He knows how to get to the finals. He knows how to get his team in the right direction. And he knows when things are right and when things are wrong. And I'm sure he knows this is not a big deal. It'll be something to talk about tomorrow, and they'll move on to the next one. Simple as that. The Lakers are on path to the NBA Finals. As long as nobody really gets injured, none of the main players get injured, they're still on cue to make the finals. Simple.
This is not a surprise to me, folks. It's the same thing. Even I'm harsh on LeBron. It's the same old sappy story. Are the Cavs, are the Heat, are the Lakers in trouble? And Casey King is right. Isaiah overreacting. Obviously, a lot of sports on the Lakers. Lakers will be fine. Lakers got the win tonight again over a good Celtics team. So a lot of basketball left to be played. The Lakers will be fine. James Gonzalez also says, sadly, a win is a win. Christy Wilson says, true. This is not really a surprise. Again, this is the Lakers here. It's not like they were playing the Suns. It's not like they were playing maybe another team in the NBA that hasn't necessarily gotten it done. Let's not overreact. When we overreact early on in any single sports season, when does it turn out to be beneficial? But before we move on to our last really true topic of tonight, Isaiah, you have something to add?
Yeah, I was very befuddled tonight by Brad Stevens not using that final timeout on that final possession when the Celtics had that run out. I mean, I know you're trying to let them play, but the Celtics were only down, 1 point with, I believe, they had that run out. I think there was like 5 seconds left in the game. If I was Brad Stevens, I would have called that timeout, got your guys together, huddled up, drew up a play, and then tried to execute that play in the final 5 seconds instead of just having like a mad dash and a mad run out where everything is like chaotic and it's all like really chaotic. And I think that that Brad Stevens should have called that timeout instead of just letting that timeout go to waste there in the final 5 seconds.
Without a doubt, folks. But even before we move on, quick about LeBron. When push comes to shove, LeBron, and whatever team he's on will always get it done, folks. Isaiah, our last topic, though. You've been very up and down and moody about the Phillies. They're back. They're not. They're back. They're not. It's like more drama than it is in whatever chick flick that they have out there. But Isaiah, the Phillies re-signed shortstop. Again, if I pronounce the name wrong, forgive me. I don't watch baseball. They signed shortstop Diddy. How do you pronounce the last name?
Gregorius.
To a 2-year, $18 million deal. What do you think about this with the Phillies? And just take away all of your emotions and overreaction. Just the initial thoughts about the Phillies re-sign this. Is this maybe put them in the right direction, or is this time the thing to fill in time or be in denial about where they're at right now?
I love this move for the Phillies, and the reason being is that, first of all, they needed a shortstop. Didi Gregorius was the Phillies shortstop last season. The top shortstops on the market had already gone off the market. Marcus Semien signed with the Blue Jays. Andrelton Simmons signed with the Minnesota Twins. So Didi Gregorius was like the top guy left on the market. And Didi Gregorius, he's 30 years old. He's pretty young. He's a guy that you could slot behind Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, and Rhys Hoskins, and he can provide protection for those guys. He's a great left-handed bat. Last season with the Phillies, in his first season with the Phils, he hit .284 with 10 home runs, drove in, I believe, 40 RBIs, and also scored 34 runs in 215 at-bats. This guy's a professional hitter. He's a power hitter as well. He's a guy that provides great defense at shortstop. He's also very fast and steal bases. I love the move for the Phillies. I think that the Phillies needed this move, for 2 years, $28 million. You know what? He was the top guy on the market. Give it to him. He deserves it. And I can't wait to see what Didi Gregorius does next season for the Philadelphia Phillies. And also, I like this deal because it shows that Dave Dombrowski and this new Phillies front office, they're actually committed to winning now. There was a lot of talk before Dombrowski got hired from Phillies ownership that, hey, we're going to cut payroll. We lost a lot of money from the pandemic. They basically said, we are going broke. And after Dombrowski came in, Dombrowski is a guy that is notorious for spending money, for making splash moves. And he's a guy that is all in on winning right now. Dombrowski comes in, he brings back JT Realmuto on a massive 5-year, $125 million contract. And then now he brings back Didi Gregorius, 2 years, $28 million. It shows that the Phillies are in it to win now. And as a Phillies fan, that is all that I want to hear.
Sheree, we know Isaiah's not a true Phillies fan. He said they're back and they're not. They're back and they're not. But just because you re-sign players to your main guys or whatever they are, does not mean that they're going to guarantee success in the postseason or throughout how many games are in the MLB season. I don't know your baseball background, so I thought I would just ask you, what are your thoughts on this, if you have any opinion on it? And are we going to see more Isaiah rants and more up and down the notebook type of drama with the Phillies and Isaiah Leung?
Absolutely, because the Phillies are going to finish fourth in the NL East. It's going to be the Braves that win the NL East. It's going to be the Mets in second place, and it's going to be the Marlins in third place, right? So Isaiah may walk off the set, but that's what it was last year. I mean, Phillies were in third place last year. They're a sub 500 team. He said the Phillies were back last year. After they signed Bryce Harper, Isaiah said the Phillies are going to win the World Series. After they signed Joe Girardi, the Phillies are going to win the World Series. After they re-signed JT Realmuto, the Phillies are going to win the World Series. The reality is they're just re-signing players that they had last year when they had a sub 500 record. So what's changed? What's changed that they re-signed JT Realmuto and then re-signed Didi Gregorius? They're both players that they had on last year's team that they haven't done anything to get better. They don't have a bullpen. They don't have great pitching. They don't have hitting to stack up to what Atlanta has. They don't have pitching to stack up to what the Mets have. They don't have pitching to stack up to what the Nationals have. So they really don't have a great team. And I don't know why Isaiah keeps saying the Phillies are back, because he's just setting himself up for future disappointment. Because all I've heard from Isaiah, as long as I've known him, is that the Phillies are going to win the NL East, and they haven't even been in second. So there you go. I'm going to take historical trend as more impactful on what's going to happen in the future than Isaiah's overreactions.
James Gonzalez makes a good point, like you were just saying. Of course, he is with the Phillies. How's their bullpen going to do again? Just because you re-sign the same players, like I said, it's not going to do anything, especially if those same players, like you just said, Sri, were on the same team that can't do anything. The only thing the Philly is really good for at this point is the cheesesteak, and even then, as without a doubt, questionable. Casey King comes in with a good point before we move on to game balls. Phillies still have a wall to climb as they need pitching. Braves will win the NL East, and the Mets in second place, and Nats in third, or Marlins may finish third or fourth place. I could see the Phillies finishing last. See, Isaiah, I could see the Phillies finishing last, just like the Philly cheesesteak. East, their pitching is a bunch. See what he said, Isaiah? The pitching is a bunch of Higgins. It's Huggies, not Higgins here, Isaiah Leung. But before we have our final thoughts, we have the segment we do every single Saturday. We have game balls. Isaiah, we see I had a new introduction of that. Would you like to do that, my friend? We do this every single Saturday, but Shreya, I thought about that with you, because I know it's definitely much later time for you. Who would you give your game ball to in any sport, MLB, NBA, football, anything? Who would you like to give your game ball to?
I thought about this a lot, and I think I'm going to give my game ball to Anthony Davis. I think he honestly had an amazing game today, and I don't think the rest of the Lakers played very well. So if the Lakers have to thank one person for that win that they pulled out in Boston, it should be Anthony Davis. He had a monster game, and if he can continue to play like this, I think the Lakers are going to be a very difficult team to beat. And I just watched the game. It was a great game, and the Celtics were able to contain everybody on the Lakers except for Anthony Davis. So definitely got to give him some props today and give him my game ball of the day.
Martin, obviously there's a lot of stuff that's happened, but who would you pick, or whatever, NBA, NFL, NCAA, whatever, who would you pick for your game ball?
My game ball doesn't go to an athlete. It goes to a front office. My game ball goes to the Detroit Lion front office for finally doing something correct, man. They have 5 future first rounders in the next 3 years now. That's called success. So, game ball to the Lions. Y'all are finally playing the actual game of trying to build a real team. Congrats.
Isaiah, despite all your notebook drama or anything else, of all your decisions of not liking John Lynch, thinking that you could be a GM or just talking all that smack, who would you give the game ball to? Did it have to be NFL, NBA, basketball, whatever? It didn't have to be a player or a team. Who would you like to give your game ball to?
I am going to give my game ball this week to one Thomas Brady. That man, 43 years of age, first season in Tampa Bay. There were rumors before the season, Tom Brady, he can't run Bruce Arians' offense. He doesn't have that strong of an arm anymore. He's old. He should retire. Well, Tom Brady told all of those haters, hey, guess what? And he proved them wrong, and he is now going to the Super Bowl. He did what a lot of people doubted before the season started. I'm very, very proud of him, and he also showed the world that it was him that made Bill Belichick who he is today. Tom Brady gets my game ball, and I am hopeful that next week when we do game balls again, that Tom Brady will be able to get my game ball after he beats Patrick Mahomes and wins the Super Bowl.
Mine, of course, three of mine were stolen. So thank you all so much for that tonight. Of course, all jokes. My game ball, I'm gonna have to pick. I'm gonna have to say it's the Rams for finally exposing who they are as a franchise. The GM is not Casey. Again, you can feel free to throw your thoughts in the comments. They finally are exposing who they are. They finally scratch. I give it to Sean McVay and the organization because they finally admitted Jared Goff is not their quarterback. Jared Goff is not their franchise quarterback. Finally being able to admit that either with saying it or without saying it. Being able to swallow your pride. That is a thing in the NFL. There's emotions. There's attachment. There's all these different types of things. And they're finally able to admit, hey, Jared Goff isn't our guy. So I applaud you, Sean McVay, the Rams GM, and the entire organization for finally admitting you are not sold on Jared Goff. And thank you, Los Angeles Rams, for finally admitting that. But ladies and gentlemen, as we do every show, let's go to tonight's final thoughts. Give me just a moment. Let's go to tonight's final thoughts. Shuri Modern, I know it's very late, so I'll get to y'all two first again. Thank you for coming on. Shuri, what are your final thoughts for tonight?
My final thoughts for tonight are about the NFL Pro Bowl. I think the sorry excuse for what they're trying to sell as a Pro Bowl is just ridiculous. I would have rather seen a Heisman-style presentation for like the MVP or something like that rather than to watch a bunch of players on Madden. If I wanted to watch Madden, I could just play Madden instead and actually do something. So I don't really understand how they plan to market and get people to watch the Pro Bowl tomorrow. I think that either they should have just canceled it or done another event or done an award show instead, because I think way more people would have been interested in that than whatever they have. So it's a shame that, COVID canceled the Pro Bowl. It's always an interesting game to watch. I think as of late, it's lost its significance that it had before, but I think that there's still definitely a place for it, and it would be definitely something that I would like to just have on and watch while I'm hanging out on a Sunday, but definitely not going to watch whatever they have coming tomorrow because to me, it's just not interesting at all.
I did get blocked by EA for emailing them, so we'll leave it at that. Martin, this has been a very great show, but what are your final thoughts for tonight?
My final thoughts. Adding to Shri, no one's gonna watch tomorrow. Let's be honest. That's a joke. Not even actual Madden players, not even Ultimate Team players are gonna watch this game. It's a joke. Who wants to watch football players play a video game? Literally. You're better off watching tomorrow's WWE Royal Rumble pay-per-view. honestly, for entertainment at that point. Other than that, though, I mean, my final thoughts were, wow, the Lions are actually becoming a real NFL team. They're finally trying to make an actual effort to become relevant again. With a proper rebuild, man, who knows? Maybe they'll finally be a playoff team once more in the next 5 years. Who knows? But yeah, man, wow, good job, Lions. Hats out to you guys.
Isaiah, I don't know what your Madden history is or anything else, but this has been a very interesting show tonight. But what are your final thoughts for tonight?
Well, before I get into my final thoughts, I want to thank our viewers for tuning in tonight. I want to thank Christy Wilson. I want to thank James Gonzalez. I want to thank Casey King. Congratulations, Casey, to your Rams acquiring Matthew Stafford. Looking forward to those division battles next season between your Rams and my Niners. Obviously, they're going to be very fun battles. Can't wait for it. I'm also want to thank, let's see, don't want to miss anybody, and also Trevor Lay for tuning in as well. Really appreciate the love and the support from you guys. We can't say enough about how much your support means to us. So thank you guys so much. My final thoughts is actually, I know we did the game ball segment and everybody got one game ball to give out, but I got to give out another game ball. I got to give out an honorable game ball, and that is I got to give one to Lonzo Ball. This guy, there was a lot of trade rumors swirling about how the Pelicans were probably going to deal him. There was like 15 teams interested in him, and this guy blocked out all the noise, had the best game of his young career, dropped 27 points against the Milwaukee Bucks, a pretty good defensive team. Just a pretty excellent outing from Lonzo Ball. I hope to see more of that from Lonzo Ball moving forward. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, I want to also give my condolences to Dick Callahan and his family. You guys know me. I work for the Oakland A's, and I've been working there since 2009 or 2018. And yesterday we got the news that the longtime public address announcer for the A's, Dick Callahan, passed away at the age of 75. Every time I walked into the Coliseum, I would always, remember, or I would always hear his voice, hear him welcoming the fans into the Coliseum, him introducing the players that came to bat, him introducing the pitchers that came out of the bullpen. And, the next time I go back to the Coliseum and go back to work for the Oakland A's, I don't know if it's going to be this year, don't know if it's going to be next year, don't know when it's going to be, but there's going to be a lot of changes there, new workers, new bosses, but most importantly, new PA announcer. And it's going to be surreal to have a new PA announcer there, because I've always thought of Dick Callahan being the voice of the Oakland Coliseum, and now he's gone. So rest in peace to him. He lived a pretty long life, and his legacy is going to be forever enshrined in Oakland.
My final thoughts, I got one more game ball to give to EA to finally expose their terrible game. And of course, we knew, I'm not surprised that Madden 21 was the Pro Bowl, because EA just renewed their license with the NFL for the next 5 to 6 years to have Madden with EA, so nobody else can make the games. But again, my final thoughts were really to be is we all love talking sports here, and despite whatever happens, whatever else y'all deal with, we like to bring that type of content almost every single day, and I'm truly on to be a part of this, that no matter what happens in the future with the network or anything else, we always have the brotherhood, and the post-show calls currency could be very, very high. James Gonzalez makes a great point. And also, rip Dick Callahan. Again, I don't want watching the baseball, but a guy that has that much energy and people don't forget him. It shows how he was as a baseball personality. James Gonzalez has a great point, and I've told this to Colin. Colin has a great voice for the A's, and without a doubt, I've told him that many times, and he is doing great at what he does. But again, thank you all so much for tuning in tonight for the Night Shift, episode 41. Tune in next week, but one kind of, I guess, a mini announcement. February 15th is the 1-year anniversary since I started in the sports career. So we're kind of having like a quick show on the 15th, but just a kind of a quick sneak peek for that. And again, hope you all enjoy. But just one quick thing before we head out tonight.
Honored and blown away. But if I don't, man, I've got my health. I've got a beautiful family. I got my parents still. Like we've.
But folks, thank you all so much for watching. John Allcorn, joined with Martin Garcia, Sri Anand. Thank you all for coming in tonight despite how late it is. And Isaiah Leung, we will see y'all later. Thank you all so much. Have a good one, and we'll speak with y'all again soon.